want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you. Good day, Mad Men Mafia.
I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Mad Men of Masculinity, baby.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations
For who?
for you.
For y'all.
Just for y'all.
I threw in my little movie preview.
I did. I like that. I like your movie voice. Look at this. We're back in studio. We're like in person.
For real,
This
man.
is amazing. It's
For
been
real.
a minute.
We're in the same room, man.
I'm telling you what. How's the jazzercise going? I saw you being with
Dude, you're
jazzercise.
killing me, Smalls. You are killing me, man.
Come on, man. That was
You
pretty
making
funny.
money, man. Hey, I love that.
you got-
I got that jazzercise thing.
He can chew his corn all by himself now.
Yeah, home with the little sponge in my mouth, man. That's all right. You know, I'm getting
Yeah.
chiseled, man.
Yeah, we were having a board meeting and this guy's chewing on something. And we're all like, what's in your mouth?
You know what I'm saying? I'm getting
What's
getting
going on
everything
over there?
tight. I'm getting it tight for the summertime. You know what I'm
Somebody's
saying?
get that summer
For
jaws.
the summertime when I'm out there in my Speedo, my
No,
jaws
please.
gonna look tight.
Well, something's gonna look tight.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Don't be weird. You're a line stepper, man. You
Line stepper. I
consistently
love
stepping
it.
over the line. Habitually.
Somebody's got to do it, especially with you.
Habitually stepping over the line, man.
Speaking of stepping
you
over
can't
the
step
line,
over the line in a family, man, when you leave the family.
well, see, that's what I was about to say. I was about to ask you, like, when it comes to stepping over the line and the family, like, who's in charge of the line stepping?
I know in
man,
my house,
who's that?
I be running things up in there, man.
Oh, really?
Let me check, make sure she's
Better
going.
make sure she's not listening.
Make sure, man. Make sure.
Hey, like, better put that on mute.
For real.
Put it on mute.
I get home and I be running somewhere else.
Getting in trouble.
You know what I'm
She'd be
saying?
like, "Oh yeah, you running things? Running the store."
You know what? No, I mean, I do say that tongue in cheek in that, you know, I'm dead serious. And if you ask her, she would tell you too that, you know, that I'm responsible. I'm in charge. I'm not a dominator, dictator kind of thing, you know, but my service leadership comes through being a servant, you know, servant leadership, man, you know.
Well, she's a smart lady. Like, she knows, like, for you to do, she wants you to do your job so she can do her job. And so in that way, you lead and do your thing. So
I'm in charge of the house. She's
yeah.
in charge of the home.
There, see,
I
and
provide
that's a good distinction.
I provide the structure, the safety, the protection, all that kind of stuff that it takes to run a house. But then she comes in and she makes the house a home.
That's right.
She makes it beautiful.
You know, a lot of times when we're in studio, we like to bring in experts. We like to bring in those that make us look smart, or
Man, it'd be
well,
great if
hopefully,
we knew somebody. That
hopefully
kinda
they
had a
make us
take
look
on
smart.
this.
Yeah, maybe we should bring in
Boom.
Mr. Tanner Wendell,
Yeah.
the one and only, who is here to talk about leadership and family, because I've known this man for years. You've known this man for years.
I don't even know how we met, dude. I don't probably through somebody.
Dude, it was a Facebook ad.
Was
I
it?
think I was running an ad for an event or something, and you, I think you hit me up, and then we met up. Dude, it was a long time ago.
It's been a minute.
That was a hot minute, dude.
Yeah, and I met him through science seminars doing our 90-day PLD thing. So like we got in deep in a lot of stuff together. So yeah, he always felt like a brother to me. So when I get to see him, it's nice. So welcome to studio, man.
Thanks,
Welcome in, and thank you for joining us because we need your expertise on this subject.
Yeah. Family leadership. It's good to be here. Good to reconnect with you guys.
Well, we first of all, we're kind of heavy on the Tanners around here. You know what I'm saying?
By the way,
We
our
got-
producer is named Tanner as well.
We got extra Tanners, man. Are there any? By the way, have you ever met a black dude named Tanner?
I haven't.
I don't think there is one.
I don't know.
Tanner might be the whitest name. It might be, man.
Oh, he's 5%. Yeah, he
might be
counts.
good.
That counts.
I've never met a black dude named Tanner,
Hmm.
but that's all right. We got a lot of them around here today, man.
I met like 4 dudes named Tanner in one day, like on the
For real?
Manatee
See,
incline.
y'all just multiple. Oh, of course, on
Oh,
the
on the
incline.
incline, yeah.
Yeah.
Incline. Yeah.
Y'all just
Ain't a lot of
multiply.
brothers on the incline. that makes sense, man.
Man,
That makes sense. I'll be out there. But anyhow, Tanner, man, you one of the real ones, man. You definitely are one of the real ones, man. That's why connections with you stick.
For sure.
That's why when people meet you, those connections just stick, man. And so thank you for being who you are. You've had some kind of ups and downs in life, man. You've had some, you've been through some hills and some valleys. You've been through all that kind of stuff, man. I mean, talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the reason I'm passionate about the topic of family leadership is because I come from a family that has an 82% divorce rate over the last 3 generations.
Wow.
So what I've kind of found, and this might be true for you guys, is that we seek out the things that maybe we felt like we didn't have in our younger years. Right, we're all sort of looking to fill some of those gaps or fill in some of those curiosities. And so it was a big thing for me. My parents got divorced when I was 13. I made a decision at that point based on how that divorce went down to not speak to my dad. Basically said, "Hey, you're dead to me," and that continued for about 15 years. I think I talked to him maybe 5 times in 15 years.
Wow.
And then I got married myself and then divorced myself. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess there's maybe more than one side of every story.
Maybe I need to ask Dad a question. Just thinking.
More to one side to every story. And it's not as easy as I thought as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
So that really, and I mean, to your point, Jason, like that's what even opened me up to my first personal development seminar. I was like, oh, I guess I don't have it all figured out at 28 years old. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, for those of you who are on the fence about personal development, I know in my case, I'm sure Tanner can agree, it was my first personal development class, the basic, where it basically was like, okay, I'm the common denominator in all my relationship problems, and maybe I should work on me.
Yeah.
And so that was, my experience. I'm assuming it sounds like similar for you.
Yeah, I think a big thing for me there was that, which I, impactful 10 years later, is there's an exercise around taking responsibility, right? Taking responsibility for things that happen in your life. And I was fresh out of divorce, and my ex-wife had cheated on me. And we were in the process of moving out here to Colorado. She was back in Kansas City. And it doesn't really matter how I found out, but nonetheless, I found out, and I was like, she cheated on me. Even then, I was still like so weak and desperate to be in a relationship that I was like, you know what? I'll forgive you. It's okay. We can work through this. And 6 months of turmoil, and the lease on our apartment was up, and she was like, you know what? I'm moving out. And I was like, I'm not moving. And so anyway, we split. And in that seminar, they talked about being responsible versus being a victim, right? Being the alternative. And they said, tell a story where somebody, basically wronged you. Yeah. And it was crazy. I sat with another man whose wife cheated on him as well. And so we were both there, just, you can't believe it, these women, blah, 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 right? Like just going off about how wronged we were about how we had been cheated on. And then they were like, hey, flip that and talk about how you were responsible for it. I was like, what do you mean? We both sort of struggled with it. Yeah. I was like, dude, I was out here in Colorado. Like, how am I responsible for this? Right. And what I realized out of that exercise was if I really, really, really took a microscope to that situation, well, I wasn't the best husband in the first place to begin with. She wanted to move with me, but financially I couldn't figure out how to make it work. And so we had to sell that house, and I was renting a room. I had all these things. And I thought, well, I could have been a better husband. I could have financially figured it out and actually moved her out here versus sort of abandoning her and my newborn daughter back in Colorado to sell our house, or back in Kansas City. So there were a lot of things that didn't excuse her behavior, but shone a light on the fact that there were, again, more than one side to every story, and that I had played a part in it. And I think that for me was just this right mind explosion moment where it's like, if I'm responsible for that, or rather, if I could figure out how to take responsibility for it, then I can figure out how to take responsibility for everything else in my life, inclusive of the future.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is we live in such a victim mindset society. Like, we're even trained to be victims. Like, oh, it's daddy's fault. Oh, it's the government's fault. Oh, it's my ADHD or my chemistry or whatever. Like, we're trained to be victims. However, when you're a victim, you have no power. You can't do anything about it. Oh, I'm just a victim of circumstance. Yeah. However, in that same light, when you take responsibility, now you have all the power to change it. You have all the power to do the things that you need to do to be the person you want to be. However, unfortunately, see, PLD, I'm saying however again, all over the place.
Yep.
Anyway, when you take responsibility, you realize that now there are things you can change. Now you have the power to turn yourself into the person you want to be. And also, unfortunately, usually it's through those lessons through the failed marriages, through, all these different traumas that we realize, oh, I don't want to be a victim anymore. And what can I do about it?
Yeah. Yeah. I was on a call with a man today, and I was just talking, he was feeling sort of stuck in his circumstance, and his wife wants to get a divorce. And I see this, on a weekly basis. And this idea of sort of like waiting to see what she wants to do. And he was like, well, I don't know. And we were talking about all the progress he's making and all the positive signs that are actually coming from his wife and the way that she's responding to him. Yet there's this piece of his mind that's like, I don't know. I still feel like she's in control and could decide tomorrow to actually, file for divorce. And my message to him was, I mean, she could, right? That's true. That's not going to help you orient your actions towards what you want. And so I feel like, I grew up in a just kind of a mindset and an environment of, the victimhood or the blaming, or it's somebody else's fault and somebody else is in control. And there is a lot of money to be made when, I mean, what I've learned about marketing is like one of the key points of marketing is to tell people, don't worry, it's not your fault. You've messed up your life, but don't worry, it's not your fault. However, if you pay me, I have a solution.
You take this pill. This will fix everything.
Right. So there's a lot of money to be made to keep people stuck believing they're powerless.
Well, there's a lot of money to be made in treatment, not cures.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yes,
and
sir.
so, I mean, you think about when was the last big medical breakthrough? I don't know.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's a lot easier for the world, for culture, for society, whatever, for those entities to come in and say, oh, poor you. And to your point, we got something to offer. Poor you, let me get your credit card number and we'll take care of this for you.
Well, that's another way we get trained in the victim mindset is it's marketing. Like if we can sell you a product that you think will fix you, we got your money, we got you hooked. They're the biggest drug dealers in the world or the pharmaceutical industry. Because like, oh, lifestyle change? No. How about you take this pill? Yeah. Oh, you want to lose weight? Take Ozempic instead of going to the gym or changing how you eat. And that's, that's kind of the society we live in, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point, if so many people didn't respond to it, right, the market takes buyers and sellers. And so because of the training and because of that, we just tend to believe it. And so for me, thinking that obviously a marriage, and we were talking about this a little bit, right, and kind of jokingly before we got on, it's like it takes two. It's comprised of two. However, I think that there are distinct roles, equal with distinct roles and equal value. And I think that we've had a lot of, again, culture and narrative that has kind of watered that down or maybe confused that. And I get it. I mean, I grew up with a father who was pretty, overbearing and not necessarily what I would call a leader.
Right.
And so I didn't want to be that way, but I also realized the consequence of not stepping into responsibility as leader.
So we're going to get into some of this stuff from a family dynamic.
We'll dig in right to it.
I mean, we're three guys, and the show is called Mad Men of Masculinity. So we're going to talk about this from a masculine perspective, from a man perspective. So, we're going to dig into this right after this break, but we'll be right back. Mad Men of Masculinity, KLDC.
Let's center you up a little bit. Come over this way.
This way. Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Let me pull that microphone over. Yeah. Look like we were trying to push you out.
I know. I'm like,
you got that cool lean.
like a little wobble.
Yeah. So if you're watching us live on Facebook or on YouTube, you can join the conversation just like Kat did. You can become part of the show. And if you have a question for me, Tanner, or Kirk, go ahead and put it in the comments. We'll add you to the show. You make you famous.
Light it up.
Action. We'll
I'd be curious, anybody, from in the chat,
Mm-hmm.
who or what's the biggest kind of victim population do folks think about? Think of when you think of the victims in our culture. I mean, who are the victims?
Kirk and Samuel's just going straight forward.
Going straight into it. Yeah. Well, we know, having been doing our work and being kind of in the masculine manosphere, as it were, we kind of know where we're heading with that, like where our minds go, because they don't say they are. Well, at least they're acting that way.
The victims are always they. Most people don't. Most people don't say.
Whoever they is.
I'm kind of a victim.
They's the victim. All right, you ready? And we're back.
We're back.
Welcome to KLDC. This is the
Yeah.
Mad Men of Masculinity, and we have Tanner Wendell in the house.
That's right.
Talking family leadership.
We were kicking it around a little bit on the breaky break. By the way, if you listen to us on the radio, you need to holler at your boys on YouTube or Facebook or one of the podcast platforms,
Apple, iTunes.
all those kinds of things. Well, when we actually when we record these shows, we stream it, and so it's online forever. So our grandkids are gonna watch these things.
Did you figure out?
My grandkids, because you ain't got no grandkids.
Do we live the stream or stream the live?
We
Okay.
we live the live and we stream the stream.
There it is. That works.
One of those kind of things.
So you had a question? You had a thought?
Well, I'm just wondering, like, when we think about,
He's been thinking again, y'all.
here we go. When we
Here
think
we go.
about, our society, when we think about victims or victimhood, anyway, who are the worst culprits? I mean, who are the worst culprits? And I'm not even trying to spark nothing, a battle of the genders or a battle of the economics or the battle of the races or the battle of the whatever. I'm not even trying to, but
Let's take it in a different direction, because I know everybody thinks, oh, they're the mad men, they're gonna talk about ladies or the victim stuff. But I think nice guys. I mean, I went through my nice guy syndrome phase for most of my life, and I think nice guys are the biggest victims because they don't think they have any power. They don't feel like they have any power until they learn that they're the ones that are in control, whether they think they are or not.
Nice guys are like the silent sufferers in our culture. Nice guys are the ones that sit back and we do, and I've been through that phase too. We do the pity party for yourself, and man, only woe was me, and man,
I did everything for her. I can't make her happy.
Do this, if I can only do that, if I can. I mean, and we when you sit back in that, then what happens is
What happened is
you begin to not like, dislike, or maybe even hate who or what you see in the mirror. And then that's when it's a downward spiral. Then that's when you doom for something. That's when you doom to act out in some kind of way. That's when you doom to addiction. That's when you doom to somehow, some way try to escape that miserable place of being a nice guy, man. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that one, man. Nice guys, man. Being in that nice guy scenario is terrible.
Have you read the book No More Nice Guys? So you had the experience with that?
Yeah, for sure. That book was like almost every chapter. I was like,
right,
that's me. That's me.
Yeah. To me, I feel like that was a pivotal book and like foundational for anybody interested in the topic of men's work. Right, Robert Glover, or not Robert? It's
Dr. Robert Glover.
Dr. Glover. Yeah. And I think for me, if you want a litmus test of nice guy, there's a lot of things in the book. But it really is that like blaming. Like I on social media almost daily, whenever there's a message about taking responsibility for your marriage or how men can step up and lead, inevitably the crickets crawl out into the comments and they're like, why is it always the man's fault? What about this? So if you find yourself saying that, or even there's kind of the flip side, which is this idea of, happy wife, happy life, which is basically like, if I just please her, if I just this, the problem with that, and some of this stuff is it's like a razor's edge, right? Yeah. Because if you say, well, happy wife, happy life, that's not actually true, then it's like, so what? You're not supposed to make your wife happy? You're not supposed to please her? It's like, no, that's not the case. It's just that when you orient your actions towards someone or something, i.e. your wife, in attempt to get a response or an outcome, that's basically manipulation.
Exactly.
Nobody likes to be manipulated. Nobody likes
that.
And then it leads to down a path pretty quickly, which most of these guys would be able to identify with, resentment. Because it's like, I did everything for her and I and she didn't do this, and it's but like what you find when you dig into these things is like you did everything except the stuff she actually wanted, but you didn't ask, or you didn't have the awareness, and so you did everything like you thought you should, and it didn't actually matter.
And you can't be a leader and placate at the same time. You can't be a leader and a yes man at the same time. You can't be a leader and a pleaser at the same time. You just can't. I mean, no one that is an effective leader, or no one that is I'm going to say professional, not necessarily that you get paid, but no one that's in a leadership position ever makes everybody happy all the time. And if you're a leader in your home, then you definitely can't be driven by making everyone happy. And absolutely do wives not want you to live your life acting out everything, trying to make them happy. That's, I mean, quite the opposite. They need boundaries, structure. I mean, that we can provide. I'm not talking about from a domineering perspective.
Yeah.
I'm talking about from a leadership perspective. Somebody's got to lead. And if you don't step into that, she will, and then she'll resent you for having to do that.
Here's a quick test. I love that, dude. That is spot on. And what I posted something on Facebook, I don't know, a week or so ago, and I said to the effect that if you would treat your wife more like a child than your boss, your marriage would improve.
Mm-hmm.
And I posted it purposeful. I mean, it's social media, right?
Yeah.
The
Be
goal
careful.
is to get them engaged.
Right.
I wasn't attempting to inflame something
Right.
or twist it in a different way, but I found myself saying something similar like this on multiple calls. And my point was, most men look to their wife as like, what are the orders? What should I do? But they'd look to their children like somebody they should take care of and provide support for. And so that was the intent of it. What I got a number of comments on there and people saying, well, I think you mean partners. It's a partnership. We're partners. And so my question is, I don't disagree with that. However, if anybody's been in a 50-50 business partnership, you know that like you don't equally make decisions. And if you think you and your spouse are partners, then I would just say, okay, when you decide to go out for dinner, how do you make that decision?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's like little things like that where women are just like, just make a decision. And the guy's like, I don't want to make a decision. Where do you want to eat?
Absolutely.
And she's like, bro, like I've been doing stuff with the kids all day. Like, just decide where to eat.
Yeah. And a lot of things are not 50-50, at least in my household. Well, most things are not 50-50, quite honestly. I mean, there are some areas where she is leading, I'm going to say, but when it comes down to it, when there's a bump in the middle of the night, it ain't a 50-50 thing on who's going to get the heat and go downstairs and see what the feeling is.
So you want your slippers or?
It ain't no, do you want to go or do you want me to go? Or let's go together. Like, no.
Honey, there was a bump.
I'm packing and stacking, baby. You stay right here. And, I'll scream if I need you to call 911. Or if you hear a loud bang, go ahead and call 911. But whatever, and tell them I'm the black man. So anyhow, that's a side joke. But there is not that 50-50. And when you said more like, because she doesn't want another kid. She doesn't want another, especially a grown man suckling on her. I mean, you got teeth. She don't need you. You know what I'm saying? That stuff hurt. So she don't need that, man. She needs somebody to help carry the load, make her feel safe. And if she don't feel safe, she'll never submit in any kind of way.
Well, in that whole 50-50 ideology comes from this, equality ideology. But like to your point, if you were a 50-50 partnership, each of you have your own job. You have your own strength. You have your own responsibilities. And so, you take up 50% of the workload, or to our point, quite often, it's not a 50-50. It's 100-100.
Yeah.
You need to bring 100% of yourself and they bring 100% of themselves, but you each have different strengths. You have different responsibilities. So this whole idea of 50-50, oh, well, I make 50% of decisions, this, that. No, what's your job?
Yeah.
What is your job and your role?
The challenge with the 50-50 is like, then you feel like you're always weighing, right?
Yeah.
You're keeping score.
Mhm.
There's actually, there's a man in Boulder, I forget his name. He wrote a book. It's called 80-80 Marriage.
Oh.
And it's an interesting concept, right? Because my wife would say 100-100, right?
Mhm.
Like she grew up, her parents have been married almost 60 years. And it was like 100-100, we bring 100. His point, I forget the guy's name, maybe Nate something. His point was, we're not always at our 100, right? And so if you can bring 80, and if your spouse isn't at 80, and you figure out how to balance it, but the point really is bring your best, not like, here's my 50, where's your 50? And if you're not at 50, then I'm going to not get 50, which is what that 50-50 mentality.
Because nobody's ever at 50. Like I always think you're not giving 50, and I always think I'm giving more than 50.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, so it's like it don't
that
work.
comparison
The math don't never math on that. That's just not the way it works.
Well, and that's like when you're in your nice guy syndrome, or when you're trying to do this 50-50 equality thing, you miss out on the responsibility. You miss out on the fact that each of you have your own different roles to play. And then, like, to that point of, there's a lot of counting and comparison. Like, well, I brought my 50. No, I always bring more than 50. And then, there's resentment that builds up, and then you get that revenge cycle, and you get divorces, all those things. So it's a matter of how do you set up your relationship and whose job is what. And for most guys nowadays, it's really a battle, even within themselves, to step into that leadership position. Because I look back on some of my relationships, I'm like, oh yeah, total nice guy, just a yes man. And if you're not able to say no to your partner, whether it's a man or woman or anything, but you're in a relationship with somebody, if you can't say no to them for their own benefit, then you're not leading. You're not being the partner they need you to be.
Yeah. I used to think that like arguing in marriage, like I thought the goal of marriage was like argument free. Like my wife and I literally, like in 2020, we ran like a challenge for couples, and it was just like, argue no more or whatever. And we were so ignorant. Like we had a mentor that was like, is that really the goal? He's like, my wife and I, like, we argue, we're Portuguese, like it's kind of part of our culture. And we're like, oh wow, we really examined that. And it really got us to think that the goal is not to have conflict. The goal is to learn how to have conflict.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The goal is learn how to like have healthy conflict and have disagreements for the sake of your good, but realizing that you're different people with different perspectives and different experiences and different approaches. And if your spouse was like exactly the same as you, then like they'd be irrelevant. It'd just be like a duplicate, right? And that might be cool for a bit, but you kind of get tired of that. And so,
and even in that point, like a lot of times we get so focused on the argument that we miss the whole point of it, which is the resolution.
Yeah.
We want to get to the resolution part of like, how can we, and of course, like in any negotiation, you're both gonna be irritated.
Yeah.
But you came to a resolution that benefits both of you.
The reality is sometimes there's no necessarily resolution. There's nothing that is
Sometimes
like,
just drop it, baby. Just drop it.
It's like, all right, doesn't matter. I mean, we went to the flea market over the weekend.
Are we really fighting about this?
Up at the flea market, we were like, oh, we can come up here and sell some stuff, right? We can come up here, we can clean out the storage unit, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
I have my philosophy of like, all right, I just want to get rid of stuff, right? So I'm selling everything for like $1. And she's, no, you got to sell everything for this and that. And blah, blah. And I'm like, look, okay, you sell what you want for max price. I'm going to get rid of stuff. Because and we went back and forth. And I'm like, wait a minute, man. Why?
What?
Okay.
why are we even arguing?
I'm not even going on
Why
this
is this an
carousel
issue?
no more, man. This is a fictitious hypothetical sale at a hypothetical
I don't even got a table
flea
yet.
market. Like there's no, and that's okay. Like that's okay to be that way. And so but you can't be afraid to ruffle feathers. You can't be afraid to have disagreements. You can't be afraid to do all that because, like, man, sometimes they test you.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're testing just to see if you're willing to kind of stand up for yourself and really to stand up for what you believe in. And speaking of standing up,
We better stand up for this break.
yeah, we're gonna stand up for this break. Your boys will be right back. Mad Men of Masculinity on KLDC.
How's the audio? Other Tanner, real Tanner.
Dude, I'm
Okay.
telling you, man. Sometimes they just test just to be tested.
Well, that's the failure of the
They
nice
just wanna
guys,
test
because
you.
nice guys are always like, yes, baby, and they're testing you the whole time.
And we
then
think
losing respect.
we think we're losing because they're testing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We think there's something wrong because they're testing me, and it's like that's just what they do.
We've got to
They want to
redefine.
find the boundaries
Yeah.
and the walls, and
Yeah,
where
I
are
use,
you?
I use this analogy, which is we test, and it's not just a female thing. We test the things we want to trust.
Ooh.
So, like, if the
Ooh.
You
last
test the rope before you jump off the.
Ooh.
right, if the last time I sat in an office chair like this, it like split into pieces and I fell on the ground. When I walked in here, I probably would have like put my hands on the chair to make sure it could hold weight before I just sat down. Right, I want to sit in this chair. But the last time I sat in a chair like this, that thing went
It didn't go so
kaboomy.
well.
So I'm going to test it because I want to trust it, right? And a lot of guys, they either yes, ma'am, and just want a happy wife, happy life, or they take any sign of feedback, pushback, testing as something's going wrong. She's critical.
She's testing you because she wants to trust you.
Yeah.
You got it.
That was
Ooh.
the first, I don't know, first 30 years of my life was,
Ooh.
yes, baby,
That's
whatever
gravy.
you want.
That's gravy right there.
Or maybe
She's
more than
testing you
that.
because she wants to trust. If she didn't want to trust you, she wouldn't test
She
you.
wouldn't test it.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, so I look at like conflict in the relationship as a sign that there's still energy and spark and activity there,
Yeah.
right? When somebody is checked out and it's just apathy,
Yeah.
I forget who it was. There's some well-known psychologist that said they could predict the destination or sort of the outcome of a marriage, whether a couple is going to get divorced or not, just based on how the wife looked at the husband.
Mhm.
And if she looked at him with a look of contempt, then it was already over.
Already done.
It's like, I'm done. I can't stand you anymore. I don't care about you. I'm out.
She's just waiting for the paycheck.
Oh, she's testing you. I'm still on that. dude.
Oh,
I'm
that's
still
gonna
on that, dude.
Let's
She's
talk about it on air. Let's bring
Yeah,
that one back.
yeah, bring it back. Bring it back.
And we're back.
Ooh.
We got some good ones on the break there, y'all. We're gonna break this down.
Dude, if I had a biscuit, I would sop this
Stop
up.
it up.
If I had a biscuit, I would.
So
I'd sop it up, dude.
since
Yeah,
it
that
hit
was
you
definitely
sideways, go ahead and tell them what it was.
the whole concept of she's testing you because she wants to trust you.
Woo!
And
Let
if
that
she,
soak in.
let it breathe.
Let it breathe. Hmm.
Woosah.
Hmm.
If she didn't want to trust you, she would not test you.
Mm.
She would disengage
Lord have mercy.
and simply have the arm's distance to your word contempt for you. And that contempt is like a lack of desire to even want to trust you.
Mhm.
Yeah, and when we go back to the whole nice guy thing, and since we're the Mad Men Masculinity, we want to focus on the men and how men can be the leaders in their family. You need to take that test as a form of respect. Of she wants to trust you. This is how she gets there. I mean, how many of y'all been rock climbing or rappelling? Did you not test the hooks or the rope before you started trusting it with your weight? That's all she's doing, fellas.
It's like that glass walkway. You ever been on one of the glass walkways? Most people don't just walk out on it. Most
You
people,
can see, yeah,
most
you
people
can see
kind of
yeah.
put one foot out there and like, all right. And even though you're walking on it, every step you kind of, like.
You see that one in China where they can hit the button and make it look like it's
I ain't
cracking?
doing that, dude.
Those are some funny videos.
Brothers don't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But no, you were talking about that. And I love the way you brought that up. Was just that she's testing you because she wants to trust you.
Yeah.
I mean, break that down because I'm assuming, because from my experience, like I didn't have that at the beginning.
Yeah.
I was the yes man, and every time it didn't go well because I didn't say no. I didn't let the test come, be the test.
Yeah, and it goes so it goes one layer deeper. And the example I use, this isn't just a female thing, right? This is a human thing,
right?
And so the example we were discussing is if the last time I sat on an office chair like I'm sitting in right now, if that thing like broke and I ended up on the ground, when I walked in here, I probably would have just thought for a second or pushed on it and been like, hey, let me just make sure this one's not going to break before I sit down, right? I want to trust it. I want to sit in it. But what's underneath that, or what's one layer deeper, is safety, right? So we get safety. We feel safe in our relationships when we trust the person that we're with, especially for women, when in general men are bigger, stronger, more aggressive, physically, vocally, like we can be more aggressive.
Right.
So if you're in a relationship, I mean, it happens early on. I focus more on, just marriage and sort of divorce resolution and that sort of thing.
Right.
It's just kind of where I'm at in my life right now and the men that I work with. But generally in those cases, you have a decade or 2 or 3 of just history, right? Men not following through on their word. Maybe there's infidelity. Maybe there's any number of things where trust has been broken. And so the point is, if she is completely checked out and apathetic, treating you with contempt, it's a pretty good indication. Like she's done with you. Like she's already made up her mind, and the ship has left the harbor.
She's just planning the exit.
She's just there, for whatever reason. However, if you're still having conflict, if you still feel like, man, why is she testing me? Why is she challenging me? It's because she wants to trust you. Like she wants to see, and that's one of the biggest challenges that with men that I like in the beginning phases of working with, is to get them to understand that some test and some conflict is okay.
That's a good thing.
Like they think that just because they made an investment in themselves and they started working on themselves and they started showing up more and they started doing the things they haven't been doing, that all of a sudden their wife's just going to be like, my prince in shining armor, you're here.
My goodness. So you probably want to just go ahead and let everybody know, especially like the young guys who think about marriage or whatnot, and they're thinking, oh, once I get married, the testing will stop.
No, it starts.
It don't ever.
It starts.
It don't
That's
ever
when it
stop.
starts.
It don't ever stop, dude. And sometimes when I I talk to my son, and sometimes I'll hear about, he's married now, and sometimes he doesn't go all into whatever. But when I hear him in the frustration between him and his wife, honestly, sometimes I just kind of sit back and chuckle, like, so, and and at one point, he was kind of frustrated. He wasn't really asking, but he was kind of hitting around about, like, is this worth it? And I said, you know why it's worth it? Because you said you would. You chose this woman. Yeah. Nobody made you marry her. You said you would, and at some point, your word has to mean something. Yeah. And so it's worth it because you said you would. But I sit back and it's like, he thinks there's something wrong because she's trying him and she's pregnant and that kind of stuff. But still, it's so funny, but it doesn't end. It doesn't go away.
And just to say it again, like, it's not necessarily like when I talk about a lot of this stuff with men, they're like, really? And I'm like, your wife's not sitting around thinking this stuff. This is the below the surface, human nature, subconscious. Am I safe? Is he safe? Can I trust him? Okay, I'm going to test it. I'm going to throw a little temper tantrum. I'm going to throw this. I'm going to do that. And it's like, can I trust you? Which is why the nice guy syndrome, yes, ma'am, happy wife, happy life doesn't work, because you just continue to fold and fold and fold until you have no backbone left. And then she's like, well, he has no backbone. How is he going to protect me? How is he going to provide any safety? Yeah. Like, he folds at every turn.
So when there is a bump at night, is he going to protect us? Right. When we're walking down this dark alley, they don't feel we can walk down a dark street and we are cool. Women don't get that. They don't get that benefit. They don't get that privilege of walking down a dark alley and with the headphones on and not worrying about anything. And so if you can't respond or react or deal with her testing you, what's going to happen when Pookie, comes around the corner and says, stick them up. Right. And so in her mind, and most women, you'd be hard pressed to find a woman that has not been abused by a man at some point in their life.
In some way.
Yep. And so if she wants you to be that safe man in her life, that process is an ongoing thing of testing that safety.
Yeah, and it's a good thing. I mean, when she's got you folded up like origami, she has no respect for you anymore. No. It's when you say no, you hold a boundary. And of course, women are run by their emotions. You're going to tell her no. And in the back of her head, she's going to be like, yes. But that's not what's coming out of her face.
No.
What's coming out of her face is, how dare you? And I can't believe you. And then you just stay strong. You hold that foundation so she can't blow you down. And then afterwards, she'll come back later on with like a sandwich and be like, I'm sorry, I was just, in my emotion.
Dude, I'm laughing because she already commented, so I know she she hates it when I kind of put the brakes a little bit on her Amazon and Temu shopping.
Oh.
She hates it when I'm like, all right, babe,
hang on a second.
They coming by here twice a day. Like, it ain't even like, you get midday deliveries, evening, and so she hates that. But at the same time, I know she also appreciates the fact that I'm making sure, we don't go broke with those little delivery boxes with the little smiley face at the front.
Well, and that's a good point too for the ladies that are watching. If your man's not telling you no and not setting boundaries, he's checked out. He doesn't care anymore.
He doesn't love. That's an indication on his.
That's his love. Yeah. Him saying, honey, don't wear that downtown Chicago. Honey, don't go out with your girlfriend because she's a 304. Don't go out with this person or that person because we know and we're trying to keep you safe. And we just had that episode not too long ago where it's like, our job as the man is your long-term safety. It's not your immediate satisfaction. Yeah. And so it's not our job to make you happy or care about what you're in the moment thinking about. It's about what's going to be best for you in the long run.
Hey, does society teach us to be nice guys from the time we're little?
I think so.
Does society teach boys to be nice guys?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there's programming in multiple capacities. I think part of it can come from religious, not digging on a specific religion or anything, but I think there's this idea of being humble, of being nice. Like I've heard a lot of these terms get kind of spun where it's like, oh, I was raised to this and I was don't talk back. Here's one for you. There's a slight twist, but this idea of respect your elders, right, and
to what point?
And to me, where I really realized that was there's a difference between having respect for somebody and having blind obedience for somebody, and I think that many of us got that twisted. Respect your elders, do this, you should show up a certain way. I'd never heard this saying. I'd love to know if you guys have either heard this. My wife, when she was a kid, there was a saying, which is that children are to be seen but not heard.
Yeah, that's how we grew up.
Yeah, I never heard that. Apparently, a lot of people heard that.
Yeah, that was Gen X. That's how we grew up.
So when you grow up that way, yeah, then you're just Gen C, Gen Y, no X, millennial. Yeah, okay. All right,
that's definitely a thing, man.
It is a thing.
You know, growing up in school, it's like don't make waves.
Yeah.
You know, and definitely don't get into conflict. You know, don't be dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know, maybe being dangerous is kind of okay sometimes.
Well, I mean,
I'm not talking about a danger to society,
right?
But I'm talking about, you know, if, you know, again, one of the most level-headed guys we know is a 9th degree black belt, you know, and he's dangerous, but he's good.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, like, to quote Jordan Peterson, like if you're not a dangerous man and you're just a nice man, then you're useless. Yeah. Because if you don't have the capacity of violence or a capacity to protect your family, then you're useless. Yeah, okay, it's great to be peaceful and all that stuff, but it just like goes back to the old saying, you know, would you rather be a warrior in a garden or a gardener in the war? Yeah. It's like we as men, especially the whole nice guy thing, why it fails is that we have no backbone. There is no resistance. We're just pushovers. So we generate no respect. We generate no trust or belief in ourselves. And so that's internal just as well as with our relationships. Yeah. And so when you take the responsibility and then you do whatever training, whatever you need to do the inner child work, the shadow work, whatever it is you need to do to gain the respect of yourself and others, then you know you're dangerous, man. Like every one of us in here, we know we're capable of great violence, but because we know we are, we don't.
Yeah, let me tie into that and kind of round out this concept that I paint a picture of sort of why, especially in a marriage, and this idea of kind of folding to your wife or just having that dynamic and not having a backbone, is that I think that we're born to our mother and we have a physical umbilical cord, but once that umbilical cord is cut, there's still this looking to our mother for support, for guidance, for whatever. Sure, our fathers and many of us, it seems, has had sort of distorted relationships with our fathers. But even if you grew up in a, let's just say, beaver cleaver, quote unquote, as good as it could have gotten household, there is still a mother-son relationship, and she's the one that gave birth to you. And so what's become very apparent to me is that many of us take this like invisible umbilical cord of life supply from our mother, and we place it on our wife when we get married. And so we plug into her for our power, which makes us want to be obedient to her, which makes us want to, cave in our backbone, as we're talking about. And I think the journey is to masculinity, and whether it's the inner work, the shadow work, finding some connection with God, the universe. To me, there's been a spiritual piece that has had to be awoken, whatever the right word is, inside of me, that has allowed me to go, I can stand on my own 2 feet, and I can withstand the storm of my wife, my kids, and the world around me. And so I think if anyone's listening to this and they're like, okay, I get it. I see that maybe I have this issue or this dynamic. Why is it? To me, maybe that's not the only answer, but it's become really clear to me that we essentially just plug into our wife for power with this invisible umbilical cord, and that has to be severed, and you've got to go on the journey of your own as a man to find yourself in the wilderness. It doesn't have to be the physical wilderness, although there's many trainings in the physical wilderness. But you've got to go through the journey to ultimately find that connection.
We want that approval from our mom.
Yeah,
we can't seek that approval from the women in our lives.
Yes, sir.
But that also goes back to one of the reasons of nice guy syndrome is the lack of a healthy masculine influence, or even just any kind of masculine influence. I mean, most single mother households with no father in the home, 80% of schools are feminine. So all the little boys are getting is feminine narrative of be a good little boy, which is basically be like a girl. Yeah. Instead of being allowed to be a boy, be rambunctious and build that masculine muscle. And so, unfortunately, for a lot of us who went through that nice guy and had that training, we've got to do it ourselves, which means you got to get guys around you to help you build that masculine muscle so that you don't rely on your wife for that energy, so that you can be her pillar, and then you guys can grow together in like a better way. Speaking of better way,
there's a better way to a break.
Better way to a break.
Mad Men of Masculinity, KLDC. We'll be right back. Dude, we can't seek that approval from women in our lives, man. And I think when you have a strong male network connection, strong male bonds in your life, then you develop that sense of not inner approval from like a overinflated ego perspective, but a solid foundation for your identity.
And it's interesting how, just like with so many things, when you don't seek it, when you're not asking for approval from your woman, or when you have your own like internal approval, then you get it. You get the respect because you're not seeking it.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a situation, I don't know, maybe a month ago, and I was disciplining my son, or sort of bringing something to his attention in a way that my wife, like, she didn't necessarily get what I was doing. He's like, "Why are you saying that to him?" or whatever. And then within like 2 minutes, she was like, "Oh, I see what you did there." She's like, "Man, you're so smart. I learned things from you." And there was a part of me, not arrogance, but there was a part of me that I was like, I didn't need the compliment. I appreciated the compliment. And I was like, yeah, no. Like, sometimes I impress myself too. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you just got to be like, I know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm really good here, right?
Yeah.
Well, like, thank you, not arrogance, but I was like, thank you. And had you have not given me the compliment, I would have went on just about my day just fine,
right,
and would have been cool with the way I was doing it, even if you were like arguing with me and disagreeing, and because you didn't understand what I was doing.
Well, that's a great point to bring up too. Sometimes, ladies, you need to let your husbands do what they need to do with their sons, and then see the results. Like, so many times we parent differently, we do things differently, we see things differently, but then we have the especially when you're a nice guy syndrome in a relationship, and they're like, don't do it like that, do it like this. Why are you doing it that way? That's not. It's like, just let me do this and just watch. Just kind of like that old joke of like, the wife will put outlet covers and bubble wrap around everything, and the guy's like, no, let him go ahead and stick the fork in there. He won't do it again.
My son had a kind of a wayward period of time in his senior year of high school, and everybody, when I say everybody, I'm talking other family members who didn't even have sons,
mainly ladies,
mainly females, wanted to solve it for him, wanted to love him into,
we just gotta love him
and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm like, nah, man. I mean, he needs to fall on his face right now. He needs to be out there, in a cold, dark place for a minute, and then discover kind of his identity. And I mean, man, I caught so much grief for that whole thing, man. And
turned out good though.
Turns out, like you said, like, what do you know?
What?
Turns out, I kind of knew exactly what I'm talking about. Homeboy went off and did his thing, and now he's thriving.
Well, that's another thing too. That's even, you're talking about the whole kids are not to be meant to be seen and not heard.
Yeah.
Our generation, that was more for the benefit of the parents,
Right.
For sure.
So you had a lot of parents who were like, I just don't want to deal with you.
Yep.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you get a lot of kids that went out in the world with like, they're not prepared. And so they did, well, I mean, I guess in our generation, we were prepared because we were on our own from like 5 years old. Like,
Taking out a water hose.
get out the house.
Yeah.
Come back with street like
Green water hose, man. That tastes still.
Oh,
good.
yeah,
Like,
it's
I
still
literally
there.
can taste that as you
Good
say.
stuff.
The best part, how you first turn it on. The best part is like it was all hot, and then you got that first cold. You got cold, and you're like, oh, I got cold.
That's some good water right
Best
there,
stuff right there.
man.
That's why we never die.
Now we got a triple filter.
I'm
Put it
telling you,
in
dude.
the plastic
I'm
bottle.
telling you, man, that was some delicious water, man. That was fantastic.
All right, fourth quarter. How we bring this back from the water
There
hose?
you go.
And we're back.
We're back.
We were drinking out of water hose, y'all.
Talk about drinking out of the water hose. Hey, before we even get to the
Yeah.
end of the last lap, T-Dub, man, you talked about helping people and stuff, and talking with guys and working with guys. What do you do stuff like with people?
Yeah. I work with men, specifically married men with kids. Like I said, some guys are going through divorce. Some guys are just navigating their relationships. So do that in a one-on-one setting or small group.
Boom.
Nice. How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, how do people get a hold of you if they want that?
TannerWendell.com.
How you spell it?
TannerWendell.com.
He's got lots of doubles.
He's got a lot of
Yeah.
double.
Oh, dude, yeah. TannerWendell.com.
Double up.
On the social media. Fortunately, at least on my computer, if you Google my name, I own almost the whole first page.
That's
of
awesome.
Google, because I have a unique unique name.
Yeah, there were a lot of Jason Kendricks. That's why I had to add the B in
I
there. 'Cause I
know.
was like, who's this guy? Who's that? What?
You got a lot of Tanners, but not a lot of Tanners.
Yeah.
How many Kirk Samuels are out there?
Dude, it's not a lot, dude.
There's
No?
not. See?
It's not a lot. But I do have Kirk M. Samuels.
That's right,
But
yeah.
there's not a whole lot.
That's
man.
good. That's nice.
It's-
Y'all lucky. I'm out here with like 10,000 Jason Kendricks. I got
a bunch of y'all, man. Oh, y'all probably.
It was funny. I Googled my name, which is already kind of weird.
Yeah, it's all good.
It just Google your name, and then like there was a softball player, some preacher, some country singer, and I was like, okay, how do I fit in?
Yeah.
So
Well, when
here's
I
the thing,
Google,
there
when I
was a-
Google my name, my old stage stuff comes up. When I was
Oh yeah, when you sexual chocolate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, there was there's a really good photographer named Tanner Wendell Stewart, but he owned TannerWendell.com and like everything else. So I actually reached out to him on Instagram and was like, "Yo, dude,
I'm gonna need that.
Yeah,
You had to come
yeah.
up off that, dude.
And then he ended up he let it go,
Cool.
and I was like, "Yo, dude, something about the domain name," and he's like, "No, I let it go." And somebody else bought it for a period of time, and then I don't know, it was weird, right? It's just internet stuff.
Domain name
Yeah.
check, fool.
What's
I'm gonna need that.
crazy-
You need to come up off that.
If we talk about that, a lot of people get my name because Wendell is also a first name,
Yeah.
and so and Tanner is also a last name.
Mm.
So a lot of people will actually just call me Wendell, or if my name is listed, you know how like you listed alphabetical by last name, but
Yeah.
it's like Wendell, Tanner,
Yeah.
and I'm like, for some reason, people just think that my name's on there like the wrong way, so it's Wendell Tanner. I'm like, I don't know.
Interesting.
But
Dude, I know people hate going to your graduations because you always at the end, dude. You got
exactly.
to wait. You
Always.
got
I
to
was
sit
always
through the
at the
whole thing to hear your name called.
Always at the end. I'll tie it back to the show though. When I grew up in small town Nebraska, I had a couple of cousins who had gotten girls pregnant in high school. Like my family did not have a good last name. Like I just was not proud of my last name.
Mhm.
And so it's been one of the things for me as raising my own kids to be like, okay, well, what am I going to make it mean?
Right.
Right. And I really, it's just like a big part of what I think about. We were talking earlier about inner childhood stuff and our upbringing. And I feel like so often we can just get cloaked in this identity of who we were. Kirk, I know you've openly shared your stories. We've all had
Mhm.
stuff where we're like, ooh, maybe not my finest moment, right?
Mhm.
Maybe not my finest period. And it's like you every day get an opportunity to reinvent what your name means, what your family means, like what you're about. And once I got that and realized like I can make it mean whatever. And then I started working with my kids and my family on this idea of a constitution. And I'm like, hey, our family constitution and what are our values? And Wendells are trailblazers. And I was like, you know what? Like, I think like 3 generations ago, my like great whatever grandfathers like settled like a large piece of like the center of Nebraska. And I did a little bit of research, but enough that like gave me some fuel to be like, I have pioneer in my blood.
Right.
And if we all go back far enough, then get beyond kind of our, first level family of origin or our grandparents. If you go back far enough, there are some like badasses in your family,
Oh,
and
yeah.
there are also some crazy people.
Oh, yeah.
And we all have both.
We got them all.
It's so funny you say that. But so, Kirk M. Samuels is actually on a tombstone outside of DC. That was my dad's.
Oh no
Right.
way.
And so that was always
He's a
sore,
clone.
There's always a sore spot for me when I would go and I would look down and see my name on a tombstone because I always thought of that as a curse.
Wow.
Like that name was like because of him and all the things that went along with him and all the baggage that came along, right? And then I realized this baggage has been luggage because I've been carrying it around. I had to put that down and realize that I am the Kirk M. Samuels that was born in 1973, right? Like I get to make some legacy as opposed to carrying out some kind of curse.
Yeah.
And that goes back to that whole victim versus victor thing. The difference between the two of those is the last 2 letters. Victim is the I am, and it's I'm. It's all pointed at me. Victor is the OR, where I get a choice. I get a choice to be a victim or a victor. And I had to decide that I'm not going to be stuck to that, the context in my mind of that last name. I'm going to decide who I want to be, and I'm going to do some great things.
Yeah, and you alluded to it. I love that you do it because like my whole focus is really moving towards that inner child work and the shadow work.
Yeah.
Because of doing the work with Kurt for so long and all this other work that we've done. When you own your past, it becomes your superpower. When you own that stuff, and then nobody can use it against you. You're no longer the victim but you're also empowered by it. Like I don't know about Kirk, but I know for me, like if somebody tries to bring up something from my past, I'd be like, yeah, and it's almost empowering because they don't get that reaction from you. And then to be the leader in your family, like you got to be able to have that foundation of that was my past, but I've learned from that, I've grown from that, and it's not going to define me.
Yeah. I think that to me is a big distinction, which is I've learned from it, I've grown from it, and I'm not actively looking to repeat it.
Oh yeah.
Right. Because I think I fell into a little bit of a trap at a period of my life where I was just like, I am the way I am and this, and it, like it's sort of like it doesn't matter and there's no real repercussions or responsibility for my actions. So it's kind of like anything. It's a double-edged sword. You can use it one way or the other. But if you're actually intentional about the fact that, like, I was ignorant, right? I mean, I was straight up saying there's a lot of things. There's things right now that I am ignorant to that my future self is going to look back on and be like, bro, like, are you kidding me? Right? Like, you couldn't see that right.
That's how you know you're growing and becoming the better version. If you don't look back in your past and go, ew, what's that? Ooh. Yeah. Like, if it doesn't kind of like strike you a little bit, like give you the ick kind of thing, then you know you're not growing. Because I mean, we all look back. I mean, I look back. What was the old Chad Daniels joke? Men from 12 to question mark are kind of SOBs, and that all depends on how much you're learning, how much you're growing, and whatnot when you become a man. But
interesting.
If you don't look back and go, then maybe you're still there.
I'll tell you, my addiction, my porn addiction, was based in my victimhood. I blame my father for all of my abuses and his absenteeism in my story and all this other kind of stuff, and for everything I can't be, every failure that I had, man, I blame that dude for everything. And that victimhood it thrived. I mean, like a petri dish, it thrived in my addiction, man. And so, to the point of I got to own that. I own it. He's been dead for almost 30 years at this point. I can't be blaming him for the stuff I do in dark when nobody's around. Like, I got to own that story. I got to own that chapter in my life, and I take that and I apply it, and even have helped other people through it and all these other kind of things. But that victimhood was the foundation. It was the bedrock of my addiction.
Yeah. And I think what I see with many men is that there's this idea, especially for if you were a good athlete in maybe high school or college, like if you had some kind of heyday, right, that you believe your best days are behind you.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of men can get trapped is believing that the best days are behind them. And so they're afraid or just resistant to even admit that maybe they had some faults in the past because they hold on to those as the glory days, the good old times. I mean, I like my father, my grandfather, my father-in-law, these men that are, older than me, again, respect my elders, much respect. And I noticed a theme with that generation that's frequently about talking about the good old days.
The past. Yeah.
Let me tell you this story from like 20 years ago. And I'm
cool. like what'd you do yesterday? No.
Yeah, no. But you don't understand this and that. And I'm like, okay. So I think when we get stuck in the idea of believing that our best days are behind us instead of in front of us, then we get stuck on not being able to actually accept responsibility and do anything about it. And of course, if you're unwilling to accept responsibility and change your behavior, then you're not going to have a different future. You're basically ensuring that your future is the same, if not worse, than your past, because you won't take a look in the mirror and just acknowledge the fact that, like, man, I was ignorant, I was this, I was angry, I was whatever, and I've learned to do better, and so my life can get better.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, we just had Mother's Day, and I was with my mother in Sedona this past weekend, and we were having this conversation. And my dad's been gone since 2015, but I was talking about basically that same thing where I was 20 something, running around and having this conversation with my dad on the phone about, he's like, what are you up to? What are you doing? What's going on? All this craziness you're doing? I'm like, I'm just trying to find myself. And he's like, you don't know who you are by now? And I think it was that kind of mindset because he's like, well, this is me. And I mean, he even told me once, to my face, he's like, I'm easy to get along with. Just agree with me or go away. And I'm like, wow, awesome. Where does that leave me? Because I don't agree with you, but I'm not going anywhere. So, and I think that's one thing we don't necessarily, maybe it's a lack of masculine influence or just a lack of elders in our communal society now. Yeah. Not having them there to go, hey, there are phases to life. First, you're the kid, you're a teenager, then you become an adult or a young adult, and then you grow and you learn, you're constantly changing. And hopefully at some point you become the wise elder.
Yeah.
But to your point, if you get stuck in the past and poke high, your one reception in a big game is your litmus test for life, then you're not really growing, are you?
Good and bad.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even the bad stuff that you have had in your life and in your past, man, if you've made some failures in relationships, man, if you made some failures just in life and your career, all those kinds of things, man, you're not a victim to any of those things. You're not a victim to being able to, I mean, you got just even a couple guys on 2 out of 3 guys on this screen right now have failed in past marriages. And at this point seem to be doing pretty okay in the current ones, right?
Yep.
And so you can learn from that. You can apply. With the difference between information and wisdom is application. And so when you apply the things that you've learned from your failures, that's when you grow in your wisdom. And when you grow in your wisdom, that's when you become the sage. That's when you become the wise one. That's when you become Obi-Wan and not the Padawan. Ooh.
Well, and to clarify, my marriage has just failed before I got married.
Yeah.
I didn't even get that far.
Yeah.
They just failed prior to that. So
Dead on arrival.
it was no go. Like that plant was dead before we even planted it.
And so when we, to talk about, to wrap this up, I guess to a degree in terms of leadership in the home and all these other kinds of things, as men, if we're going to step into that space, I mean, if you're going to have a home where you're going to be a leader, and we're all leaders in a home, because we all, even if you're the only one in the home, you're still a leader.
Yeah.
And if you're the only one in the home, that's a great place to begin, because the hardest person to lead is yourself.
For sure.
Right. And so when you get that in order, when you get your discipline in order, and, when guys say, you know what, I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to stop doing dope. I'm going to stop whatever. I mean, whatever it is, whatever your thing is, then you begin to lead yourself, and you can't lead other people effectively until you can begin to lead yourself effectively.
And that's why you got to have strong guys around you. You got to have a support group, because I mean, Kirk just basically said my last 6 months.
I wasn't trying to, man.
But you did.
I ain't saying no names.
I'm trying to put you on blast in a good way. So shut up. But yeah, I just moved. I had to move out of city. I had to make a complete drastic change so I could quit drinking, quit smoking. I mean, I've been a functioning alcoholic for almost 3 decades. It's just something that in our society, that's pretty normal.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much out there. But if you want to make the change, having a support group around you, so you have guys that go, okay, you need to do that. I got your back, versus why are you doing that? Where are you going? What's good? You want to have that strong support group around you. So if it's not us, check out Tanner Wendell. If it's not him, he knows somebody. Kirk knows somebody. I know somebody, but we're here to help you. So if you want to make changes, it's time to make those changes. So holler at your boys. And let us help you out. And until next time, we are the Madmen. That's Tanner Wendell. You can find him at tannerwendell.com. And we are out.